Hey, I'm Duke on Twitch. If you want to support the channel and greensunzenith.com, you can find my Patreon, merch store, and singles store where you can buy singles through TCG Player or Card Hoarder in the video description. If you want to get in contact, you can also find all that info in the description below for things like donation deck lists or just wanting to reach out. Alright, let's get right into it. Hey team, welcome back to Dukes on Twitch. Back today with Naya Depths with a pretty stock list. This list only has a few changes that I've made just to try some new cards out. So we have Outland Liberator in the main deck over Night of Autumn, which is just a trial and give it a test out. I do like that Liberator can flip and get some extra value that way, but a lot of the time this deck is playing at sorcery speed, so it'll be interesting to see how many times that does come up. Also, the ETB effect of a Knight is pretty solid, but yeah, I think it's also pretty nice just to test out this card. I haven't been the biggest fan of it, but I think it's also good to show in testing why I don't like it. And hopefully it just, yeah, shows me up. The other card was Surgical as just another way to interact with the graveyard, especially on the draw against some of the fast graveyard decks, so pretty cool to see how that goes. Hey John, too kind, my friend. I really want to do a stream with you. I just had a wedding and now I have a free weekend pretty much all the way till October. So if you want to line up like a Saturday night stream or a Friday night stream your time, which would be Saturday morning my time or Sunday morning my time, that would be very, very cool. Because yeah, I have wanted to go back to D&T for a while. I've had a few people ask like what's happening with D&T on the channel. Obviously a really fun deck, so yeah, that'd be very cool. But a huge thank you. That means so much. That's very, 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 very nice. But yeah, let's just jam some leagues, see how this goes. I did drop the Chasm in this side because I felt like against a lot of the decks where I was bringing in Chasm, like Elves, sometimes against sort of the Madness decks, which could be pretty quick. We have a pretty good matchup against anyway, so I'd rather use that slot against the matchups where we don't. And Surgical for me is just a nice sort of combo piece, especially with things like Red Elemental Blast or the Blast effects. It can be quite good against things like Sneak and Show or decks that heavily rely on one or two cards. So Surgical is just nice because it also means that Cabal Therapy on Endurance isn't kind of the only way out for Dredge or Reanimator in some regards to kind of get there. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, really cool to see a lot of good finishes with this deck. I really, really enjoy it, and I really enjoy seeing people's different lists. I think there's a stock kind of 70, but I think there's 5 cards a lot of players can play around with, which is really nice, and that is great, not just for Magic in general, but for the wider group to get a better understanding of maybe what cards work better in some metagames, what people are playing in paper. Like Minsc and Bill, I think, is a pretty tough one, because I think Minsc has really taken the deck in a direction that obviously can't be mimicked online with no copies of Minsc and Boo, which is pretty sad. It's always nice to be able to have apples for apples with a deck when it comes to the paper version and the online version, but obviously in this case, it's not. Which is pretty sad, because I think Minsc is a really, really nice one. A really powerful card that allows us to, yeah, just grind out on a different kind of axis, and that axis being a Planeswalker, which is obviously pretty strong, especially in the mid-range kind of Jeskai matchups where I have a pretty hard time. I think that Minsc is a really solid choice. And even in the mirror, you know, even against things like Death and Taxes, I think it's pretty strong. Being able to fling is obviously quite great. Even if it's not for the 2020, it can of course just be a massive Knight. So yeah, would love to see Minsc and Boo online soon. I'm sure some would say the same about Maddening Hex as well. Especially in I think Delver's picked it up a bit. There's obviously a few red decks that could benefit from having that. Oh. But yeah, just finished off my Sylvan libraries in Black Border, which is pretty nice. And now just the jewels, which are on their way. So then I should have a full Black Border Naya Depths list, which is pretty sweet. Gut True Soul Zealot, legendary creature. Whenever you attack, you may sacrifice another creature artifact. If you do, create a 4/1 black skeleton creature with menace. It's tapped and attacking. Nice. Yeah, I feel like this card should be played potentially in mono red. It seems pretty sweet. This is probably on the verge of being a mulligan, but having something like a turn 1 Reclaimer into turn 2 Flagstones is just really nice. And then we do have Wasteland and Swords as interaction, so pretty happy to keep this. The question is, what do I want to lead on? I don't mind leading on Savannah, just in case I do want to Swords the turn 1 threat. We could potentially... Savannah opens up the line of untapping and going Swords Wasteland. Whereas if we start on Forest, we don't. And I think we're in a position where we're happy to get Wastelanded, so I think Reclaimer off Savannah here is pretty nice. Hey DN Solver, welcome. How much a black-bordered Savannahs? I think it depends heavily on if they're FBB. They're obviously a little bit more expensive if they're going to be normal, but they probably range between 5 and up. Arid Mesa into Mountain Bolt. That puts me on most likely thinking we're up against just Burn. That might be playing something like Grim Lavamancer to have cards in graveyard. And therefore the Arid Mesas. It could also be like a Searing Blaze version of the deck. Hey Mike, welcome. Ah, it's gonna be Painter. Okay. Interesting. Well, that's not too bad. Playing the Dark Depths there so that if we just naturally draw Thespian Stage, we already have one piece of the combo in hand. Or in play, sorry. But obviously, not a matchup where Wasteland is that great when they don't start off on sort of a City of Traders or a Saga. It's nice to have the Wasteland for a potential Saga, but the 3 other lands in hand aren't where we really want to be. And the 3rd mountain's quite good for them. This might be a case that if they have a Blood Moon next turn, we could go for Wastelanding our own Flagstone to go and get Plains, and then we have Plains and Forest in play. Another Swords. I think in that case I'm going to play the Wasteland. If they play a Saga, we can of course Wasteland it before they can tap it for mana, which is nice. Can also start just ticking down the depths as well if it comes to that. But Painter's probably one of my... I think it's probably one of my favorite matchups on Naya Depths. Not so much based on favoritism, but based on interaction and back and forth. I think it's a pretty interactive matchup with there's a lot of game to it. There's a Tomb. Khan's pretty good. I wonder if they get Painter or go for something else like a Liquid Metal. Yeah, they go for Liquid Metal. I'm gonna tick down depths here. Okay. Unfortunately, it doesn't do a whole lot. We can take them off the Ancient Tomb, which I think is still relevant because it just turns off the ability for them to go land, tick down again into Lattice. It is, of course, one less answer to the Ensnaring Bridge, but we do have Green Suns for Outland Liberator for that. I think it's just going to be second Savannah. Take them off the Tomb. and then just pass back. But yeah, the Reclaimer dying to Bolt was pretty huge, and just not having like a backup threat. Interesting that they're going after the Savannah, especially when we have two. Soul Guide's going to be fine. Okay. Definitely not the side of Painter that we want to see when we have swords in hand. I think here it's just going to be taking out the liquid metal. It's tough though, because now we're kind of in a position where we only have one white up, even though we have 3 swords in hand. But luckily they're kind of off being able to Painter, Grindstone, and also hold up Pyroblast. But a 2, 3, 1... A Soul Land does it for that, because they do have the Lotus, so they have 4 mana. I guess they could also just get Lattice here. What, another liquid metal coating? Yikes. Ah, they get it from Exile? Of course. There's a world there where it's better to play the Caracas as another land. I will just use the mana to take a counter off the Dark Depths. And hey, Mr. Lee, welcome. Sorry, I didn't see your message. Hey, Main, thanks for the follow. Hope you're well. Not great. Pretty happy just to swords this now. This is tough as well because the Saga just makes me have to use these swords most likely on the tokens, which is then just less interaction with the actual combo. It can't attack, but it is like 1 less life if it comes down to that. Okay. I can't really tap out either because then they can just go and get a Painter with the Khan. I probably don't mind just getting another Reclaimer here. Yeah, it's very true. That's a good point. Welder can also target our artifacts if it comes up. Oof. Yeah. Okay. They do get to attack now. I think I will deal with it, and then deal with the welder. I could also deal with the welder there, so that if we draw into Thespian Stage, we can just kind of go for it. Tough. Actually, we'll just deal with this now. But now they just have full. I think we'll just concede here. Tough. We like the Force of Vigors. I don't mind the Tower. We definitely want the Forces and the Oof. I think the Endurances are somewhat relevant, and also the Tower. I'm not a big fan of the Moxen. I think the Moxen can be pretty easy cuts. The Maze is still okay against their fast starts. The Caracas can definitely come out. Bog is still relevant with the ability to use their graveyard. Wasteland's still pretty good. Step is less needed outside of just like Bolt and potentially a Dead Gone. I do like the swords. I like the crops. I like the reclaimers. I like the liberator. I don't mind the libraries, but I don't mind cutting down on library. They can be pretty aggressive with their tokens. Ramanap's still fine, Endurance is still great, Knight's still fine. I could see just like one extra Endurance, because we just have so much hate for the actual combo post board that we don't really need to have that out of being able to Endurance ourselves and upkeep to not die. Could just be one Knight, but also 28 lands without the Moxen is just not really where I want to be either. I could potentially see one Mox as a target for Saga if we copy it with Stage. I still like the fetch lands because of Bolt. I want to be able to get the Reclaimers as 3/4s pretty quick. Online pretty quickly. I still think Depths as a 2-of is fine. It might just be a step going down to 28 lands. And then it could just be the Tower. I think Maze kind of allows us to play around the tokens a little bit. I don't think like Surgical is that great. I think this is fine. Ah, but we are playing 61, of course. The Moxen, it's really a case of, are we going to be playing... Like, I'm probably more the control player. So I kind of just want to make my land drops. Could be surgical, especially with Painter and Welder. But then they can get stuff back with Exile. So let's just go with the extra endurance. I don't mind that. I think endurance just as a 3/4 as well is pretty relevant. It's also a green card for Force of Vigor. Ooh, a nice hand, just no green mana, unfortunately. So I am going to mulligan this. Okay. Keep and bottom a Knight. We can turn one Dried Arbor to turn to a Knight potentially. Probably want to play around Bolt a little bit with this Knight of the Reliquary, so it could just be that holding up endurance is better. Opponent's gone to 6 cards. Alright. Welder. Okay. It's funny because these 3 creatures I don't want to play into a Bolt, but Knight gets there pretty quick. I think it might just be Knight. It could be both Liberator and Reclaimer. That's pretty nice as well. I don't mind 2 spelling actually. Even though it's opening up the Liberator to just be removed without any sort of value, it does make them have to have some sort of sweeper effect. And obviously if they both live, Reclaimer with Liberator is quite nice, because even though if I want to flip the Liberator and not cast anything, I still get to do something with my mana, thanks to the Reclaimer's ability. Okay. Sure. Crop's pretty nice. I'm just going to hold up Reclaimer here. I could also crop away and get Wasteland for the tomb. I don't mind that. That also keeps Karn off the board. Probably just getting rid of the Arbor. I could also Reclaimer for Flagstones and then sack the Flagstones, which puts 1, 2, 3 lands into the bin, being probably Dried Arbor, Flagstones, Wasteland, which makes this a 3/4 straight away, which is quite nice. So we'll sack the Arbor, go and get Flagstones, crop away Flagstones. I'll get the Plateau, and then crop for Wasteland. This is quite nice because it still leaves me with 3 mana, which allows me to play the Knight next turn as a big creature. Bridge is fine. We have a lot of outs to that as well. I think we're just going to try to get this knight online. And I will play this step. I think having the extra land is quite nice, because it means that next turn, if we draw a land, we can play Endurance and also hold up Reclaimer's ability. They definitely could have bolted the Dryad, but I kind of like just making sure they can't respond with like double bolt, like bolt on Dryad and then bolt on Knight. Recruiter. They get Servant. They only have one card left. That's quite nice. But we can't currently cast both. I could copy their Saga with a stage, but I think here just taking them off the Saga is better, because it also takes them off Grindstone down the line. If they do nothing here, I think we just turn the step potentially into flagstones. We did take one step out as well. So if they have the last card as Pyroblast, we can't actually respond. We can't actually save our creatures. I could try to bluff that by holding up Reclaimer here instead of using it in end step, but I think I'd rather just get Flagstones online, because then it kind of turns the other Reclaimer online as well. There is also a world where I should just go for a green source for Endurance. So maybe that's the better play. Just going for Yav. Means we can definitely cast Endurance next turn or in our upkeep if needed. Ooh, that's pretty nice. They can... Okay, so if we Prismatic Ending the Ensnaring Bridge, they probably just trade it with their Lotus Petal in the bin, but then we can use Knight to bog them, which is pretty good. Which takes the Ensnaring Bridge off the table anyway. That's probably our line. So we have to go white, red, green. Because I believe if I try to bog now, the bridge still goes to the bin. Because I believe Goblin Welder tries to do as much as possible. Because it's target artifact in play and in the graveyard. So if both targets are still legal as this ability resolves, that player simultaneously sacrifices the artifact and returns the artifact. Maybe not. Maybe there is a better way to... Maybe I should bulk now. And that then... Let's have a quick look. No, we're looking at Goblin. That's right. Well, both targets must still be legal as the ability resolves in order for it to do anything. If either one or both have become illegal, nothing gets sacrificed and nothing gets returned to the battlefield. Okay, cool. So I can actually bog now, and that'll get rid of the... It'll actually exile the bridge. Nice. And now I get to attack with both Reclaimers. And then still have Endurance open for my upkeep. Because even if they have land Grindstone, then they can't also have removal for us. Interesting, just a pass back. Probably just attacking with everything. Is there any reason to leave anything behind? I don't think so. This also makes it a lot harder for them to try to chump block next turn as well, as both Reclaimers are going to be lethal. Okay. Do I want to change anything based on what we saw? I don't think so. I think it really just comes down to having adequate removal at the right time. So obviously instant speed swords, if they have Painter and Grindstone, or having Endurance so that we can actually draw a card. Yeah, Blast is tough because it's only good if they do have the Painter online. But they have so many good outs in like a Karn win or a Construct win that I don't think we have the luxury of having dead cards, because we can't just brainstorm them away. We can't just you know, put them in the graveyard from a DRC or something. I think I'm just going to run it back. And hopefully this time see like a Force of Vigor would be pretty nice, especially on the draw. Still a pretty fine hand. We get to accelerate into a turn 2 library with Wasteland open. Or just hold up Endurance. We can also get basics to play around Blood Moon or Magus, which is pretty cool. I know that Tom Hep definitely played with Brainstorm for a little bit with Bug Depths. But it's obviously tough playing into the Pyroblast kind of meta right now. Yeah, it's kind of a strength of the deck as well. But to be fair, the deck has a lot of shuffle effects, which is quite nice. Opponent goes to 6 cards. Hey Moon, welcome. Hope you're doing well. Evening to you. Late afternoon for myself. I'm actually gonna get a blanket. It'll be 1 second. All right. Mountain Stone. Another Wimp that's actually quite nice. It means we can turn to a 4/4 Knight potentially. All right. I think here it's just going to be Wasteland on the Saga and play Library. And then we have these open if needed. Yeah, it's actually quite chilly today. Coming up to the start of spring. Soul Guide's going to be fine. I think here we're most likely just paying 8. That's a great card. Well, they're both great cards. But I can't do both. But I don't mind digging as well. Nice. This mana plus stage also opens up the line of just finding a crop rotation on top. Opponent has 3 cards in hand. They might even be thinking if they want to sack this for a card instead of exiling your graveyard. Like a Soul Land here opens up a lot of lines, obviously for Khan as well. Didn't get a chance to watch any SCG coverage. No, I had a wedding on, so... Bridge is fine. We do have an answer to that in Red Source and Ending, which is pretty nice. Another Green Suns here for Oof would be pretty good as well, but Crop here is just pretty nice. So let's go... They only have 1 card left. So I think it is just going to be over 2 turns, play Stage this turn, hold up Crop Rotation, go for the combo, untap Windswept Heath for a Red Source, Prismatic Ending the Bridge, and then attack. So I don't think we need either of these. I also don't want to put myself in like double bolt range. Also, in the slight chance that they grindstone me and hit both my Dark Depths copies, we do thankfully have access to Endurance ourselves before the crop resolves to put the Dark Depths back into the deck. So they are drawing a card, which is great for us because it means they're trying to dig for something. They still have 2 cards, so I really don't want to do anything too crazy here. The grindstoneed me. Interesting. Alright. Definitely nice to claw that one back. Because, yeah, Painter can be pretty rough. Really makes you think about your hand choices and what you really keep in games 2 and 3. Alright, Tamo. Double queuing. Interesting. Not the hand that I'm really after. It has one piece of the combo and a way to find it, but it's pretty rough otherwise. This is much better. I'll keep this. And then I think just for mana purposes, I'll drop the Depths. Because I can find it with both my creatures. I could also just drop the Mox, but I think the Mox can even open up something like a Sylvan Library off the top would be pretty strong. Okay. This could be D&T. And there's the library, which is really nice for us. So let's go... Mox, pitch the Savannah, play the Sage, hide the Wasteland. Okay, it is going to be D&T. Thalia is going to be okay here. I probably want the step back in the deck, so we're not going to be paying for that. Ooh, Mox does cost more though. So I can't do something like... I actually can't play the Knight here either. But I don't mind putting the Mox back on top. Unless I just want to pay for both. Double Mox is pretty interesting. I could double Mox and Reclaimer and then just Ramanap back lands down the line. Because this turn we could use Stage to cast the Mox, pitch this, and then we have Wasteland and Mox as the play. I actually really like that. So we go cast Mox, pitching Step, play... Oh, I could play the Knight. Is playing Knight better? I really like taking them off their one white source right now. I think that's where they are, because I am thinking about like next turn, like white source Skyclave Apparition. So I think Wasteland here is probably the best play alongside Reclaimer. And then next turn we actually have Wasteland with Ramanap, which is also quite nice. This also makes the Reclaimer a 3/4, which is great to block the Thalia because we want to be hopefully paying a bit more with this Sylvan Library. But it's not often against D&T you get to get Ramanap Wasteland online so early. Typically they start off with a few planes, so we got that going for us, which is quite nice. Okay. It's probably just the Zenith that I want here. And then it's going to be Ramanap. Wasteland. Hit port. Ramanap here as well just lines up really well against the Thalia as an X3 powered creature. Or toughness creature, I should say. Sentinel's going to be fine. Oh, no second land. Safekeep is really nice here because my plan against D&T is usually play a mid-range plan, play a bunch of lands each turn, get to a stage where you can Safekeeper and then go for the combo if your Knight plan doesn't get there. So this is non-creature spell as well, so let's go put this on top. And then we can go for Savannah, play Safekeeper, and then play Knight. Knight to G4. I could even attack if I really wanted to there with the Ramanap. Yeah, tough spot for them because we have the Wasteland online, we have Knight for Caracas for the Thalia, the Esper Sentinel there wasn't really doing anything either, and over the course of, you know, 2 turns we could potentially get the combo back online. Next turn we actually have the combo with Wasteland, which gives us access to both an out for Caracas and also just a card that we can, a land left over after the combo to sack to the Safekeeper for like a source to plowshares. This is an interesting one. So D&T typically wins, at least in the games that I've played, with an early Cauldra. So Tower of the Magistrate is pretty key there. I do like 1 Force of Vigor and 1 Oof. Bojuka Bog is a pretty easy cut. I don't mind going down on the Mox Diamonds either. So it could be something like double Force, Oof, and Tower, but I don't want to go too far in that end. I also don't mind the Mox Diamonds. The tough thing about Mox Diamond is Skyclave Apparition and Flicker Wisp. But if I'm cutting on Moxes, I most likely want to cut on more land as well. Because I don't really want to be a deck with 29 land that doesn't really have a way to make use of it sufficiently. But it could just be a case of, like, you know, playing some number of more Endurance. Or even like maybe the second Force of Vigor is just better, and going down to like 26 lands. Like I could see like a Yav going. I could also see the Foothills going, because this isn't like a deck where I need to get my creatures above bolt range ASAP. Could even just have 1 Mox. There are times where 1 Mox is pretty nice to have. Considering getting to MTGO to be able to play more regularly, have you... if you've never played, yeah, it's not too bad. I believe there is a little part down the bottom that allows you to understand like what F2 and F6 do, which is probably the 2 keys that I use most. But it's not too hard, which is nice. I think this might just be where I am at, but I don't mind the extra Endurance. And just go full fair. Yeah. I think there's a lot of different ways you could sideboard against D&T, but I don't mind that sort of route. Okay, a little bit open to Wasteland, but we have Termine Crop or Swords, which is quite nice. Plains Mum, okay. So this is an interesting spot where if we Swords the Mum, we obviously get in a position where we're pretty open to Wasteland, but if they're Wastelanding us, and it's not too bad because they're also back to 1 land as well. But if pretty tough. Oh, they're going to go for Lion Sash here. That's pretty great for us. And we draw Forest. That's even better. Because now we get to go reclaim a hold up crop. I think if they do Wasteland here, we crop for Flagstones, just as a way to keep building out our mana. And if they play a 3-drop like Skyclave, we probably just crop for Sajiri Step. Interesting. They do go for it. I think Flagstones is just best here, because it's also quite... it can't really be hit by Wasteland, which is pretty nice. Yeah, I think that's really true. They're going to Swords. That's more than fine. Okay. Our own Swords is pretty nice. It means we can Swords this, which is going to get pretty annoying. And then Green Suns for another Elvish Reclaimer. which I don't mind. I could also go for a Dried Arbor if I really wanted to, but I think just keeping a threat on board is pretty nice. I could also save the swords for a Mother of Runes, but because this just answers all three of our threats really well, I do just want to get it off the board right now. And with the flagstones in play, it's obviously really nice to have Reclaimer online potentially. Will they get Solitude here in 2 for themselves, or try to get a Skyclave, which obviously is a lot harder to line up with Reclaimer online due to cards like Sejiri Step. So it could just be the case of a... Oh, okay. That's fair. It's just going to be Windswept here and pass. Then we get Hold Up Solitude. Oh, Hold Up Sejiri Step. I think just for one more turn. I'd love to play, I would love to be able to play a 3-drop and also hold up 2 mana for a Reclaimer. Now the question is, do I just want to sack the flagstones here and get Step to play around Solitude? Because then I can also just hold up Solitude and upkeep. I think that might just be a world where I don't care about them Solituding the Reclaimer. Because we have 2 good threats in Ramanap and Knight. They get another Flicker Wisp, okay. I will get Plateau because it's a 3rd color, which turns on Prismatic Ending as a nice removal spell. I'm going to fetch now, because if I play Knight and then fetch later on, they could respond to the fetch with removing this Reclaimer. I'm just going to go for Teega. Play Knight. And then pass. Second Wasteland's pretty good. I go for Solitude. Still happy to keep building out this flagstones. I'm gonna go for Depths here. Oh, they're allowed to untap. Oh, Endurance is huge against these Wisps as well. How do we want to do this? I think we just want to pass. Holding up everything we have. I could play Ramanap and play a land for turn. Let's have a quick look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If we play Ramanap for 1, 2, 3, we then play a land and have 1, 2, 3 left for the Endurance. Hey Wiltron, welcome. Hope you're well. I think we actually will go for Ramanap. Get back to Flagstones. And then pass. Cycling Timeless Dragon is fine. I might even just want to Endurance right now to keep them off that Timeless Dragon. I think that's fine. Hey Mark, welcome. Hope you're doing well. We haven't played Dead Guy yet. No. I had a wedding, so I didn't have as much time as I thought left in the weekend. But this week for sure. This week for sure, we're playing Dead Guy for the fifth try at the $300 trophy challenge, thanks to that Maverick Joe. But hey, wedding was really good. Hey Lawrence, welcome. Hope you're well. So we know about Solitude in our opponent's hand. That's the only card we know about. Hey Range. Fun fact, Range was the name of my company until I went back in-house. Land. Stoneforge is going to be fine, thanks to having both Force of Vigor and also access to Tower of the Magistrate. I think a Caldro. Which they can start hardcasting if need be. I'm not going to do anything here either. I really want to hold up that ability to give protection. Play Heath and pass. There's no great attacks here. This is fine. I could play Flagstones and get another land out of the deck. That's very true. I wasn't sure if I wanted to get Dryad Arbor onto the battlefield. We're getting Tower. And we are using Tower. Wow. Interesting. So they had two cards. They had Solitude, which is obviously, with Patience, is just answered by Reclaimer and Night being open. We have the combo, but they do have double Wasteland, but we do have Wasteland ourselves to go and get as well. Maybe they just didn't want to play it out. Pretty interesting, though. They, like, the Flicker Wisp into Flicker Wisp was quite strong in the air. while they had the double Wasteland keeping us from comboing off. But Endurance there is just so strong. A 3-4 against a 3-1 is just... yeah, it really changes the battlefield and how they can pressure us. Which is pretty nice. Then also just getting that extra Timeless Dragon was pretty good, which is always a little bonus. Yeah, maybe they had to go. It's pretty tough if they don't have other Graveyard Hate because of the Ramanap getting back either Wasteland or the Dark Depths combo if we try to go for it. Obviously after taking them off the Karakas first and then slowly like Wastelanding their Wastelands, but... yeah, Tower has gone up. I don't think it's on the reserve list, but I could be wrong. No, I don't think it is. Magistrate, MTG. Tower is not on the reserve list. It just has the one printing in Mercadian Masks. But yeah, pretty fun. It actually peaked at around $45. Before that, typically around $15, if not $5 in early. Yeah, wow. Actually, like, looking back at like Jan 20, it was $2. Jan 21, $3. Jan 22, $5. And then Jan... yeah, nuts. April, $17. July, $15. And then just shot up in August to $40. And slowly coming back down. Pretty funny. I think it was also... yeah, definitely got to see playing D&T a little while back. And then just Commander, I assume. I think that like a Commander series YouTube channel recently did like a best cards to have in like your EDH kind of pile for different decks, and Tower of the Magistrate was in there. One thing I did actually forget was water, so I'm going to be back in a second. I got there with 1 second to go. We're up against Tony, which is going to be really hard. So Tony is typically on like Mono Red Storm, which we don't have any great hands against game 1, other than like turn 1 oof off Mox Diamond. His hand does have some interaction. I don't mind it. Like, I think it's just an off chance of game 1 if they go for like an early Burgie and then pass turn. But it's obviously pretty tough. Yeah, Ruby Storm, but I believe the deck has moved to... oh, they're going to be playing Burn. Okay. Interesting. Prismatic Ending. Okay. Well, this is a game where I'm going to be going for the combo pretty early on. But I do want to keep as much pressure off the board as possible. Rift Bolt. Chain Lightning. Okay. So we're effectively at 12. A land isn't great. I don't mind Dried Arbor Pass holding up Crop. I also don't mind Reclaimer Land. Yeah, I think swordsing ourselves might be a nice way out of it. I'm trying to think of the best way to get to the combo. So crop rotation obviously gets there over 2 turns. Or at least one piece of the combo. Reclaimer gets another, but do we have time? I feel like Reclaim is better because it just potentially gets like a bolt to the face. Or untaps. So I think it's just going to be Reclaimer Step. It's between Step and Arbor. I think it's Step. Also playing around Price of Progress is something I want to do a little bit. Rift Bolt, okay, that's a small win, which is quite nice. And nothing from them. One piece of the combo? No. But we do get Knight online here. Just gonna get a basic forest as well. It'll be a 3/3, but I think because I think I should just crop here for Thespian stage. And that allows me to play Knight, have stage up, or play Knight as a 4/4. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I think getting like a double spell will be quite nice, or a Fire Blast, but Fire Blast is probably the card that I'd rather see, as it's pretty much a 3-for-1. Okay. Untap land off the top would be really nice. They have 2 cards in hand. Looks like they're going to Fire Blast. Oh, price. Okay. Can't do anything there. Oof. Ah. Sorry, of course. I don't need to use mana for the Knight. So we do just have the combo online, which is really nice. Unfortunately, we don't have a way to hold up. So we sack the Savannah. I think we just don't play a land either. I think we just go... Yeah, I think we just make it now. Dark Depths. This way we play around Price of Progress, and then we can just trade the Dryad Arbor if we really need to. Yeah, chances are pretty high, thankfully, but it's pretty close. Yeah, the untapped mana would allow the Plow to open up. Nice. Yeah, because it would have to be... I'm actually not sure if they do, because 1 Fire Blast... They have 3 cards. I guess they could have double Fire Blast and Mountain, but otherwise it's not that great. All right. I think that, like, the Forces are really the only card I think I really care about, with things like Ensnaring Bridge or Sulfuric Vortex, or of course Eidolon. I don't mind the Deafening Silences, but probably more on the play. I think it's only just taking out things like Bojuka Bog and... Like, the libraries aren't great, but I could see, like, 1 staying in. Yeah, it could just be a situation where Deafening Silence is just better than something that I'm holding in. Maybe not all 3, but potentially something like this. At 61. Safekeeper's Night nice for like Price of Progress. Liberator's quite nice. Prismatic Ending. It's also a case of just can we be faster than them? So, hey Jack, welcome. It is just a nice turn one play though. The matchup is Burn. We won game 1. Didn't see anything too different either. Like we didn't see like a main deck Vortex or like Rolling Vortex or... I think like the forces are good and the deafening silences are like just better than some cards in the main one. Yeah. Hey Rock, thanks for the raid. A huge thank you. What did you play? How did you go? Like potentially Caracas can just come out. Caracas isn't that great. And just play the extra the silence because it is just a card I want in my opening hand if I do want an opening hand. But I think the turn 2 Dark Depths is where I really want to be. And although this is like a nice hand in the blind, it doesn't do a whole lot. It does have one piece of the combo. And to be fair, Green Sun's into Forest. No, because we need both like Yavimaya and Crop Rotation for it to be good. Reanimator? Very nice. Thank you very much. Have a nice weekend. I'm pretty happy to mulligan this. I really want to find like a quick start with Crop. There's Crop and there's Yav. Okay, that's getting closer. It also has Force of Vigor, which is nice. I could see a world here where we just bottom the Safekeeper. Yeah, that's true. I guess I kind of put it up against, like, is the protection of like a Reclaimer or a Knight better than the untapped source, but potentially not. I think I'm going to bottom the Safekeeper. They could have something like Boom Bust, but I would assume they play to the board and play something like Ensnaring Bridge instead. Alright. Green Suns. Okay, that's pretty nice. Pretty happy just to Green Suns here for Dryad Arbor. This also turns on the line of just Thespian Stage or Dark Depths off the top. Allows us to crop into the other one. Another Green Suns. Okay. Yeah, double Reclaimer is pretty nice. I don't think I need to hold up the Crop. But like holding up Crop means I can take 2 less damage off a Price of Progress. They're also on 1 land, so... I think we'll see how double Reclaimer goes. Could also hold up Endurance. But I don't mind that this actually allows me to build towards my combo. This also means I could potentially double block a creature, and I think I definitely will. Windswept. And Swords to Plowshares. I think I like double blocking here. We do have Sword on top, which is really nice as well. I will play this, and I will fetch now. Maybe not. Maybe because of the Goblin Guide. Like if there's like another Force of Vigor on top or a Deafening Silence, I probably don't want it. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 2 more turns. We might be able to make depths because... No, because I think the depths comes in tapped. 2 mana crop. Yeah, because either the depths for mana comes in tapped or the stage comes in tapped. So if we like Reclaimer for stage, obviously we don't want to do that. If we Reclaimer for depths, we then have 2 mana left over, and crop takes 1 of that, and then we have 1 left over for stage. So we need 1 more. Like, there's not a world where we can sadly crop for Dark Depths, tap that for mana as well, and then get stage. We can also play out the 2020, that's very true. Okay, what do they reveal? Step? Okay. So they have 6 cards. I think we just want to block with the Dried Arbor on the Goblin Guide, and then before damage sack it to the Reclaimer to go and get stage. Block with Endurance? Guess we could do that as well. It's quite nice to get Endurance onto the board. Yeah, that's true. This actually doesn't change too much, which is nice. Because we get to crop this turn for stage. I guess I don't need to crop this turn because it's just the mana anyway. Probably should have blocked the Swift Spear, but hopefully it comes out. Okay. Bolting me, sure. So I could send it back to them, but I don't think that's worth it. Because we have the Endurance to block the Swift Spear anyway. That I'd rather have the mana up. There's been stage. Yeah, I could have actually cropped, sorry. I could have cropped to save a mana, which allows us to hold up the sword. Now we're in a bit of a predicament. Because if they find a land off the top, I assume we're dead. Yeah, now it's just pass and then hope they don't hit a land. I could play the Deafening Silence. Maybe that's actually better than holding up sword. Yeah, but I've gone to end step, so I think Deafening Silence was definitely best there, but also just crop rotation. Like, that's just an easy play. Yeah, definitely don't deserve that. I think the matchup is pretty well favored in our part, but yeah, pretty brutal sequencing. I haven't looked at SCG Baltimore. I'm not sure what formats it is. I know Legacy is definitely on, but I'm not sure if it's like a multi-format event. Hey Rick, welcome. Hope you're well. Sunday's good. Had a wedding up near Byron Bay, which is pretty cool. So stayed up there for the night and then came home this afternoon. But yeah, some good matchups so far. Burn, Painter, Death and Taxes. Haven't really been able to test Outland Liberator yet, but seems pretty cool. Your dad works for the radio at Byron Bay? Nice, that's cool. What does he have, like, what does he discuss on the radio station? I think your dad's in politics, Jack. Political issues? Nice. Hey, big shout out to the two sponsors of the channel. Card Hoarder, who allow me to get all the cards that I need for my streams, and MTG Mate, who is a Australian online card seller. You can find them at mtgmate.com.au. You can get 5% off your singles with code DOOGS at checkout. They do buy-sell days as well around the greater Brisbane community as well, which is very cool. Obviously, buying and selling cards at local game stores. Pretty sweet hand. Pretty happy to keep this. Not sure what Samus is on. Swamp Ritual, okay. Yikes. Ashiok. Okay, well that's pretty brutal. Don't really have a grade out to Ashiok. Could just be flagstones. Don't want to play the Mox just yet. Oh, it could be hindered to deck. Okay. Wow. Oh, well, we can't search. Of course. Of course. Cool, cool, cool. Plateau. Okay. I don't mind just our own wasteland. Mishra's Factory. Alright, we lose we lose both our basics. I guess we can play Knight out here. Could have like a sudden edict. Okay. Okay, interesting. That allows us to go red, white, green. I don't think we wasteland here. There's a world where I want to keep the wasteland for their wasteland if we play the stage and hold up crop, but I also like keeping them off 3 mana. All right. No depths just yet, which is good for us. Wasteland. I kind of like keeping them off castle anyway. Okay. Oh, please wasteland stage here. No, okay. Just hope they don't have opposition agent. I think it's still worth playing the Wooded Foothills, but I'm not sure why. The reason I didn't want to copy the Swamp was in case they play a Mishra's Factory and then try to make one that I could draw into. Or make one that I could attack with. Like if we untap and draw like our own wasteland, potentially. Another stage. Yeah, unless they play a second Wasteland, I'm pretty happy just to copy Wasteland here. Okay. They drew another one? No. They just got rid of it. Maybe they drew Opposition Agent. Okay. Pretty happy just to pass here. 2 cards now. Lily. Lily's fine. I think I'm gonna fetch for Dried Arbor and sack that. This allows us to play around Sudden Edict as well. Nice. Pretty sloppy, but I'll take it. Not too sure what I really want here. Potentially Force of Vigor is really the only card. Ashiok's annoying, but I don't think it's worth bringing in the blasts for. Yeah, that's fair. Like, cracking is probably better there in upkeep. That's just a streamer brain. I don't mind taking out the maze. Obviously, library's pretty nice. Side-in blast first pox. I also don't mind the endurances, to be fair. It's just flash creatures. Like, maybe the diamonds aren't where I want to be, but in mono black they're pretty hard to get rid of and also allow us to be pretty good. Yeah, I think more bodies are good. I still think swords is quite good as well, because I assume opposition agent is in the 75. It could be going down to 26 lands with the Mox Diamonds. Taking out like Caracas and a Step, because their removal is most likely just things like Sudden Edict. Yeah, it's tough, especially if they're on like Smallpox. Could just drop a Mox and go to 61. Could also just be not needing the Force. I think turn 1 library is obviously quite good, so I don't want to keep in the 3 Mox in for that. I'm just going to go with this and see how it slides. But obviously turn 1 Ashiok is quite nice to beat. Still think this is fine. Like 4 lands allows us to cast pretty much anything. We get to ramp, we have removal if needed. Okay. Probably happy to drop the Yav. They're down to 3 cards. They just got a Smallpox. Sure. So my options are really Wasteland the Factory Pass or Green Suns for an elf. I don't mind Green Suns for an elf. Fetch before Ashiok's pretty relevant. Like, if they have like Dark Ritual into Op Agent, that's fine. I think it will just be Green Suns, especially while I can. I think I will just get a Reclaimer. Because the Safekeeper doesn't pressure Liliana that greatly. And at least if they make a sack, it's essentially a 3-for-3 trade because they used a ritual to get the Liliana out. We both discarded. Okay, this is actually pretty interesting because now we have the ability to potentially make this Reclaimer a 3-4 next turn. Makes me think they have Sudden Edict. If the last card is... Oh, they're going to activate that. Interesting. Well, Wasteland takes care of the Liliana and also the factory here, which is huge. Oh, they drew a maze? That's fine, because this does the same thing. They just get to keep the factory. Nice. Sure. But now we have 3 mana, which is really nice. Could crop for Wasteland here, but at the same time, I'm not really scared of anything at 2 mana. Then I'm probably pretty happy just to pass and see if we can draw into one piece of the combo, and then go from there. Dried Arbor is exiled, to be fair as well. Swords, alright. I'm going to fetch now and then just hold up the swords. Because if we can trade swords for the land, I'm pretty happy with that. We haven't really seen any creatures just yet anyway. Okay, that's pretty awesome. Okay, that's actually fine. Hey Wiltron, very cool to hear. I mean, our only play really is Knight. What were you playing, Wiltron? And what did you play against? I know you've been on a kind of a mixture of depth decks, which is really cool to see. Okay. Rainbow, very nice. All right, opponent on 0 cards. There is a world where I'd rather keep this in hand as a discard for later on. Because Dried Arbor is not there. I've gone through 2 Sudden Edicts so far. We also don't have any fetch targets left either. That's a great point. That's a really good point. Reanimator, oops, mono red. I guess that's a reason to play it now, just to have that extra land in the graveyard if needed. Yeah, because now this can be a 3/4 with the crop. Yeah, I guess I could keep a land as well if I wanted to, with the crop, and just get rid of the fetch land. Hey Reaction, thanks for the follow. Hope you're well. I'm not sure if I'm lagging on my end. If anyone on stream sees a bit of lag, can you let me know in chat, please? Yeah, it does look so. Alright, I'm gonna quickly restart this. Nice, okay, hopefully we are back now. Yeah, it turns out if we use the microwave upstairs, it turns off the internet, which is pretty weird. But obviously in a pretty nice position here against our opponent. Yeah, it does sound problematic. It's weird as well because they're on opposite sides of the kitchen as well. They don't use the same power points. Crop this away. I actually thought for some reason that I would get 3 lands in the bin here. I could still, if I really wanted to. I could get Wasteland and Wasteland their Wasteland. I actually don't mind that. I think that's actually pretty good. Even though they get one of our lands. We don't really care about that. Like, that's fine. I think now we just want to hold up the combo. Although the fair line is also quite interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I don't mind the fair line for one turn. I don't want to target anyone either. Pretty happy just to leave this. And they're actually going to concede there, which is nice. Alright. 4-0, which is really nice. Yeah, it can be pretty like resource heavy as well to do, especially when the Reclaimer is 2 mana itself. So you need 4 mana plus Dark Depths in play. So like beating down for 6 a turn seems pretty good as well. Especially when my opponent's on 1 land and with no real spells in play. But yeah, deck feeling pretty nice. There's been a few, like that first game against Painter, thankfully didn't really set up how the rest of the league would pay out, but it can definitely happen like that, where you keep a pretty good hand and then just draw kind of the wrong side, which is always going to happen for a kind of non-cantrip style deck. Like you just have to kind of be pretty open to being subject to the top of your deck. But yeah, Tony on burn really surprised me. All right, John Parker. Honestly, not the worst. Like, all colors, one piece of the combo. I'm pretty happy to keep this 7. A little bit slow, but... maybe I take that back. Oh, it's gonna be oops. Yikes. Tough. Yeah, oops is definitely not a great game 1 play. Yep. Nice. Dread return, yeah. Not like this. Please, not like this. We don't have too much against oops. Like, we have the endurances, surgical, deafening silence. We definitely want the ley lines as well or the forces for ley lines. The collector oof is okay. The blasts, probably not. Green Suns, Night. Ramanap. Endings are interesting. Safekeeper can come out. There's no Memories Journey? Okay. Bog's good. Caracas. Swords is still okay. I could see Knights coming down, of course. Even just like the 1 Knight. I do like the mock starts. Could see a library coming out, even like both libraries. Reclaimer for Bog, Swords. Liberator's fine. I kind of like Liberator in the Deafening Silence versions because it might make them play out like a Chrome Mox early on. Honestly, it could just be this. Like, Prismatic Ending is okay. Maybe Prismatic Ending is a little bit better than Swords to Plowshares. Swords is technically out. I guess there's also Blast on Oracle, but usually they have obviously 0 cards in deck. 27 lands is still fine. I think it might just be this. Just really hope for Deafening Silence or some sort of graveyard hate. Okay. Keep this. It is a 1-lander though. I guess we can Green Suns for... I mean, this kind of is, like, it's a 1-lander, but I think it's a 1-lander with everything we need, because we have, like, a green card with Force of Vigor. We have Surgical. And I think we just Green Suns for Dryad Arbor turn 1. Plow does help for Narc, but typically if they're going for Narc post-board, they have like a packed backup. But I guess you could like try to like respond to the first, and then while the others are still in the bin, then like back it up with something else. Okay, that's a really good sign for us. Another Mox is dead, but we can hold up Crop here. There is a world where I should just crop for Wasteland. They have 2 cards left. One packed, 2 packed, 3 packed. So let's go surgical targeting Narcomoeba. They packed it. And then let's go crop for Bog. Yay, magic. Woo! I think we're just running this back. And just hoping to have a hand with like Endurance Surgical. Force would be nice if they do have a Leyline start. I think the library can just go. I don't think we're getting there, so... Do I think mono red is a fun way in? I would say fun is very subjective, especially with mono red. Are you talking about burn, or are you talking about something else? This is an interesting one, because we do have the Force of Vigor, we do have Surgical, and we do have Flagstones. We don't have a green source, though. But I don't mind this. Like, especially because it just has the Force of Vigor for Leyline, if they do have a Leyline. They have multi 5 cards as well. Oh, they do have Leyline, okay. No pay. Green source? No. But we do have Sword open, which is interesting. Oh, they pay for it. Okay. Sure. Sure. They have 1 card left. One, 2, 3, 4. Just gonna swords this now. Ooh, okay, so now we need to find Bog as well. That might help. Yeah, is it 2 petal, 1 Thoracle? And does that mean that they have to play a petal this turn, thanks to the Deafening Silence, so we can Prismatic Ending 1? I think we still get there because they have to play out a petal this turn, right? Maybe not? Ooh, okay. Yeah, so let's just quickly... So they have 3 cards. They have Lotus Petal, Thassa's Oracle. So thanks to Deafening Silence, they can't go off the same turn they play their first Lotus Petal, which is answered by the Prismatic Ending. So they can't actually get there, thankfully. Yes, we exile the Petal now, and then they only have Petal and... Yes. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh, nice. Oof. I think I made the oops player think a little bit too much. All right. Nice. Is this the version we played? No. Is this the version? Yeah. Whew. That was definitely scary. I mean, keeping a hand with no green mana is definitely a tough one. But like the one surgical that we talked about in like the opening deck tech of being another piece of interaction for Graveyard Hate came up to be kind of the big winner, which is really nice. But yeah, thoughts on the deck? No big thoughts. I definitely don't mind playing 61. I usually just play Maze as my 61st card, which, in my opinion, wins more games than loses due to being a 61 card deck. I think like the Surgical is probably a flex spot. Everything else is pretty stock. Like you could say the third Deafening Silence isn't needed because of the blasts, but I really like it because I think the deck has a pretty big weakness to Deafening Silence, but. Liberator, I literally just put in the deck over Night of Autumn to test it out, which is tough. Like, obviously the upside is the flip, but this deck does play a lot at sorcery speed. The instant speed is really just like end of turn crop through Crop, Reclaimer, or Knight. So I can see a lot of times where it's just a little bit awkward to like time walk yourself in a way, but it obviously is quite nice, even against a deck like Lands, where getting it to a 3/3 is solid to get it out of Punishing Fire range, and then also just having a way to actually, you know, get through Maze of Ith to destroy things like an Exploration or a Sylvan Library is pretty good. But yeah, I don't mind it. It's also just a nice like Green Suns for 2 target, which is pretty cool. But yeah, nice to get the 5-0. That's pretty nice feeling. I had a really good feeling driving up from the wedding today that I was like, I'll stream the Savo because I think we'll get there, and we ended up getting there, which is really nice. But yeah, that's me. That's it. A huge thank you for you guys coming and watching. I'm gonna be back probably either tomorrow night or probably tomorrow night with this Dead Guy AL list that I've been working on for the last challenge of the $300 trophy challenge, which is a challenge from that Maverick Joe, who is a big supporter of the site and the stream, and wants me to try to get a 5-0 with a Dark Confidant, Maverick, or Depths style list. And the last list that I'm going to take through this challenge is going to be Dead Guy, which I think this is it. I think a Chromox version is pretty strong, especially with turns like, you know, turn 1 Voidwalker or turn 1 Thalia or Dark Confidant can just be really strong. But it's going to be pretty interesting to see how it comes out. There's a few big flex spots like the Kai's Guile, potentially even like the Mother of Runes could just be more hand disruption in like Inquisition or Duress, but we'll see how that goes. But yeah, unfortunately the stream did cut off for a little bit, but we got back to it pretty early on, so that should be pretty fine on YouTube for those of you who are watching, because I do just put them together as recordings while I do this. But yeah, a huge thank you to the new followers as well. If you guys want to find me on YouTube, you can find me here. If you want to find me on Twitter, you can find me here. A big thank you once again. The Will Hall experience is streaming some Pro Tour. Geeky Jackson is streaming some Vintage Cube, which is always cool. So I'm going to send you guys over there. But hey, enjoy your weekends. Stay safe. Thanks for being here for the trophy. Always a nice feeling. And I'll catch you guys very soon. This is kind of the awkward part between the two, but see you later.